So we're back on day 9. Um, really back on the code, right? Yesterday we talked about real, raw, relevant, and results as the code, and today we're going to focus on the the real. We're going to center on the real as an important part of the reality, and much of the work we did in the foundation is to kind of sort out and get to a point where we can be real. Now, real is dealing with facts, right? And when we talk about real, we don't talk about emotions and sorting out emotions. Like we can really feel, like really feel something, and a lot of times we confuse our emotions with facts. And a lot of times we were taught to deflect, right? We don't actually deal with the facts as we were, right? We're in fact when we deal with facts, a lot of times we're deflecting, right? We don't want to deal with the facts because the facts have created us to a reality that we really don't want to deal with, right? And in fact, we're taught to reject facts. As as a kid growing up, uh, we don't actually we don't understand, or we haven't grasped the concept that the facts are the fire, right? And fire on two sides, right? And the reason we don't a lot of times deal with the facts is that we don't want to deal with the fire because fire is hot, right? But fire is the only thing that actually moves our life. The flip side of that game is fantasy, right? If we don't deal with facts, we deal with fiction, right? So a lot of times we're taught um, through the the presentation, right? That like if we tell our parents that perhaps that we are upset with them, like there is some fire that comes from that decision, right? So we go with a game of fiction that is a that will only create a fictional story, right? Like it won't if we don't deal with the facts of a situation, we can only create a fictional life, right? We can only have a fictional body, right? We can only have the fictional results that, in theory, that fiction would create. And the fact is, we don't ever really come to a place where we actually get results in in any part of our life, not our body, being, balance, or business, right? So here we have the net result, right? We can live in a fantasy where we can go on saying, okay, like these things are good. This is what I want. We're not going to tell the truth because that's not reality. We're not going to tell other people the truth because that's not the reality. But we do avoid some sense of the fire. The fantasy side of that is what is once again like we create a false uh, uh, relationships, right? We create false images. We create false um, connections, right? And we learn to say what other people want to hear because we avoid the fire. But what we tend to misunderstand is that we need the fire, right? We need the fire in our life to move forward. And yes, there will be resistance, and yes, we don't want sometimes to deal with the impact of some of those things, but that is the fuel. It's like kind of the I don't know, I never played Pac-Man, but I think that's kind of the game, right? Where the more you pick up, the more of these things you push through, the more fuel you actually have to create the reality that you want, instead of a fictitious relationship, a fictitious like you kind of find yourself in a sedated zone where life is okay, right? And as long as you're with people that are in a sedated state that are just kind of coasting along, and it seems like we're comfortable, uh, and they're comfortable, and all we are really doing is spending a life of avoiding the conflict that needs to happen to get what we want. I used to think that my parents had the greatest relationship. Oh, I've never seen them fight until I got older, and I didn't know how to fight for what I wanted, right? And I got my ass whipped in relationships because I was avoiding the reality, right? The reality that is not what I wanted, that is not what I desired in my life. So we have this constant uh, sorting process, right? Where part of our code is the reality, right? And we can substitute the word reality for facts. Like we need to be able to separate the facts from emotion. We need to separate the facts from the fiction. We need to separate not only in ourselves, but understand that in other people. Uh, so, assignment, is go ahead and teach this. As always, if you can't teach it, you don't know it. If you don't know it, you can't live it. And complete the other assignments below, and we'll talk to you tomorrow on day 10.